turning into my mother.
Gelato!
I can't remember the last time.
I'd like to, honey.
Mars just kind of came joking around in the studio.
They did now.
It's worse than the thumb.
I think the most important thing is...
So that's his little game.
Hi! Hello, dear singers! Today we celebrate our first anniversary on this YouTube channel.
And for this occasion, we have something very new and special, fresh out of the oven, our very own jingle. Sing, sing, sing. We are very proud of our work so far. It's been a very interesting learning process, and most of all, we are very grateful to be able to do this in a great company, the two of us with you all.
Anyway, back to business. Today we are here to analyze modes, effects and sounds in general that we hear in movies, series or real life. And we will do this from the CVT approach. This way you see that the modes or the effects in general are not something abstract, but something that we actually use every day in many different situations.
What group did you sing with? Doesn't matter. They did now.
So the first one we just heard is Montell Jordan in the movie The Fighting Temptations. And usually his speaking voice is not like that, but in the character, he has to speak like that. That's a little bit because they want to make fun of him in the movie. And then scare people off because he's huge. So what he is doing is basically he's speaking in neutral and a lot of neutral in falsetto. And occasionally also with a little bit of audible air. And he also does that when he's singing. So if you know Montell Jordan, the artist, you know that he usually doesn't speak like that, as I said. And he also can sing in other modes than falsetto. But for this occasion, he did all the work in falsetto. So it sounds pretty high and bright and a little bit hollow. If you want to try it out yourself, just sing any note that is a bit higher on E, like in C, and keep a quiet volume and don't sing too engaged in your support so that you can achieve the sound easily. It doesn't cost much effort, but it may sound a bit hollow, and then in the lower parts of the voice you may not get much of it.
Turning into my mother. You know, once she ate a half of a plastic Oreo cookie before she realized it was a refrigerator magnet.
So as it was with Montell Jordan, they were also making fun of Nanny Fine because of her voice. But here we have another type. We have here edgy, twangy sound with an open nasal passage. So the sound sounds a little bit strange. It's kind of irritating, right? There was one episode in that TV series where Nanny was supposed to have an appendix surgery, and her boss asked, "Is it possible for you to cut some vocal cords out of her?" And the doctor, of course, said that it's impossible. So we don't know what could happen. Maybe even her voice would be, higher in volume because the children, right, when they are born, and their vocal cords are so small and they can make, crazy sounds, and they can also add distortion. Maybe some of you already experienced that, right? What is more, but we're not going to discuss it now, is that people confuse nasality with the twang. She actually has both. She sounds like, funny goat. I don't know. I mean, I love that series. So to me, it was always kind of inspiring to achieve the twang. Her character. But coming back to my previous thought, people confuse it because it can sound similar, but actually the nasality, which comes from nasal passage, is totally different place in the vocal tract, because nasal passage is high in the vocal tract and epiglottis and arytenoid cartilages, which actually create the twang. They are lower in the vocal tract. So totally different places, but of course it's confusing. But we're gonna make a video around that topic and then we'll discuss it in details. Coming back a little to Nanny Fine's sound, why we say it's edge? Because the voice is very sharp, she has a lot of twang, she has a huge volume, and she also has a bite, right? Like that. She's kind of smiling all the time, and yeah, that's the setting for the edge.
And talking about babies, the one that you just saw was a master of edge and distortion. So as you see, we already use extreme volume and sometimes really rough effects when we cannot even use the toilet. So then we forget or we get bad habits. But actually our voices, unless there's any serious pathology, usually our voices are fine from the day we come to this world. There's not much more to add, just that it, of course, the vocal tract is still very small. The sound color is light by definition. Also, as Daria said earlier, the vocal folds are not very long yet. But yeah, also they just use a lot of twang, and that is the main thing that you need if you want to use distortion.
I can't remember the last time that you invited me to your house for a cup of coffee.
And now we are moving on to neutral with Audible Air. And as you could hear, the Godfather, of course, he has his own manner when he's speaking, his own attitude created for the character. But what he's using is a pretty low volume, right? As you can hear, so it must be neutral. And also he's adding air, so adding air is only possible and only healthy when we use the neutral mode. So that's why he's using that mode here.
So that's his little game.
And also this example that you just heard is neutral with Audible Air. In this case, it's not because of the attitude, but rather because of the situation. Our friend Johnny English is with his girl Hilton. They are hiding from the bad guys in the movie. So of course, whenever we whisper, we add a lot more Audible Air, so more air than tone. And as Daria said earlier, it is only possible in the mode neutral.
Don't ever come from my bed again. You hear me? Don't ever come from my bed again.
And going back to babies, it's so funny that they are so small, but we can have so many sound examples from them, from the noises that they make. So the boy was scolding his dog, saying, "Don't ever poop in my bed again." What we can hear here is the edge vowel, eh. He has distortion on it also and a lot of twang. After saying don't, he makes a small pause to actually get the right setting, like ever, don't ever. What he is doing, he's just gathering the energy, because to make a distortion, you need much more support and much more energy in general in your body. And in gathering that energy, we need some emotions. So in that case, it was the anger.
Okay, so this example I chose on purpose in Spanish because Spanish has a lot of overdrive. The vowels e and o are all over the language. And the name Teodoro is just the perfect mix of both of these vowels. So you have it all for the overdrive. And so what you need to keep in mind is that overdrive is shouty, not screamy. Edge is screamy, but overdrive is more shouty. So then also the pitch limit is there. We should not forget about that. But he is like, he's shouting and he's really loud because Overdrive is loud, but he's not really high in pitch. So if you go and check, it's not really that, yeah, it's still lower than the C5, which is the pitch limit for men in Overdrive. And yeah, of course, way lower than even lower than the female pitch limit in Overdrive, which is the D5. So as long as you do that, you can, of course, shout the hell out of everyone in Overdrive as long as you want. Just remember also here to just keep the right support energy, because for loud volume, we really need that.
Mars just kind of came joking around in the studio.
So if you know Bruno Mars as a singer, you probably know that his voice has this held back character, like he's kind of suffering when he's singing. And when he's speaking, he has the same thing on his voice. So he is just simply speaking in curbing. So whenever he's speaking or singing, he has this restrained and held back character.
I'd like to, honey, but I'm not sure how.
So this example is a very interesting one. Here we have three things going on. I hear neutral because the volume is not very loud. And I hear Audible Air, so again, that confirms that it has to be neutral. So I hear neutral with Audible Air, but then I also hear Rattle, which means that two effects are being used here. And this is something that you can hear a lot, and you can do it yourself as well if you want. Just combine two or more effects together. So if you want to achieve that sound, you would just have to be quiet with maybe a lighter sound color as well. And just like that. And then you add the rattle. And then you have Marge Simpson. I want to, honey, but I don't know how. And then you have it. Just also remember that Audible Air and Rattle, like other effects, cost more support energy, so you have to add a bit more, and especially if you are combining them together.
I really hope and believe that there is not a person on the planet Earth that hasn't heard that sound example, because it's a historical moment, we could say. So on that concert, Freddie Mercury is just playing around with the audience. He's singing some easy phrases in Overdrive, trying to make the audience feel like a part of that concert, because it was a concert for, I think they were raising money for some charity. So, you know, it has also a story behind it for everyone to feel involved. Why do we say he's using the overdrive here? He is using the vowel A, like stay, and O, like so. He also has abide, and he is under the pitch limit for overdrive, which for male singers would be C5 and for female would be D5. And the character of his voice, of his sound, is very shouty, which also confirms that it's this mode.
It's worse than the thumb.
So in this example, what I hear is a clear curving. The volume is not too quiet, not too loud, and it is a bit held back. It's worse than it's not, and it's kind of held back. Not just in volume, but in character. It's maybe not as restrained as a Bruno Mars example from earlier, but it's definitely around that area.
And I love your jacket. The sparkles are amazing.
I had a little bling here for today.
Yes. You know. I wanted to find out who made it later.
But I think the most important thing is they need access to therapy, counseling, mentorship, and other community-based programs.
So in this real-life situation, you can hear Paris Hilton speaking. Many of you, and me also, I remember her speaking with a very sweet, kind of like a Barbie doll voice, adding some creaking to kind of maybe be more sexy or whatever she wanted to achieve. But we got to know her real voice in that interview, and in some of the other interviews also. She showed the transition that she was just faking it for people to think that she is a stupid girl. So when we hear that transition from that sweet Barbie girl voice to an adult woman voice, we can say that her voice was like a combination of neutral and curving, because she had some restrained character and there was also some creaking, but what has drastically changed was the sound color. Now, after the transition, she sounded much darker, and it makes us also feel like she is serious in what she's speaking. So it kind of gives much more authority when we use the darker sound color.
That's it from us. Thank you for watching. Soon we will be back with more information about the modes and how they are used, also again in a more musical context. For now, we hope that this video made you understand that the vocal modes and even the 3 overall principles and then the sound color and the effects are very present in our daily life. We may not be so aware of it always, but now that you know a little bit more about them, maybe you can also check it out yourself and you will hear a lot more. So if you manage to build up a bit more awareness around this topic and gain more knowledge, you may be able to use your voice better, so you know it better and you can use it better and not compromise its health. So you can achieve any sound you want, but without hurting yourself.
If you've learned something new with us today, then give this video a thumbs up. And if our content has made you enjoy singing even more, then please subscribe to our channel. Also, if you're interested in booking a single session with us, please feel free to get in touch. Our contact details are in the description below, as well as the timestamps. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have fun singing and see you very soon. Bye!
Bye!